Hello, you beautiful souls. Welcome to this video. Today, I'm going to answer a question from Sunid. Thank you for the question, Sunid. I feel like it's really close to my heart and is something that I have a lot of experience with. So hopefully, maybe a thing or two I say about it can help you out. The question is, I feel like I'm very close to a spiritual breakthrough, but I still struggle with stuckness and depression. I have been praying and meditating a lot. I have also been witnessing. My question is, how do I make peace with my current situation? How do I surrender to life and Kundalini? I feel a sense of urgency to do things in the world, but I'm not acting. I still have to deal with the medical world, but I feel I can't find authenticity there. Any advice is appreciated. Yeah, one of the big things I want to say here is sometimes our meditation and our prayer will only serve to get drier and drier, and will only serve to kind of feel like this sense of apathy and inertia. It's like the more you meditate and the more you pray, sometimes the more that feeling will kind of come into your energy field, and that's the divine talking to you. That's the divine saying, sometimes making peace with the situation is making peace with this needs to change. It's like sometimes we reach a point with prayer and meditation where they lead us to action, aligned action. And sometimes the answer isn't just continuing to sit and to sit and to sit. Sometimes the answer is move towards your fear. It's like, I feel in this question, Sunid, and it's something that has happened to me a lot, is like there's something you know that you'd rather not know, right? There's something you know wants to happen through you. Like you're talking about allowing the Kundalini to live through you as you. That's essentially what surrendering to Kundalini means. And there's something you know that the Kundalini wants to do through you, like an action, a movement, that you'd almost rather not know. And if you're a lot like me, I'm sure, where you'd rather just meditate it away. We'd just rather sit on our cushion and not kind of deal with facing this, what we know that we don't want to know, or that we'd rather not know. We'd rather just surrender to the feelings and not have to make the uncomfortable changes in our life, right? This has happened to me over and over and over again, where I've been in a situation and the more I would meditate and the more I would pray on it, the more it would become clear that the way to, relief, the way to reconnection with the divine, the way, like, because depression and stuckness is just like energy not moving, essentially, right? It's a heaviness and a density. So the way for this energy to move is aligned action, is inspired action. But a lot of times God does this trick where the aligned and the inspired action is in the direction that we're most afraid to go. And so that's why we would rather just not do that and just sit on the cushion and feel through the depression and stuckness and hope that it'll just lift all on its own. And I'm not going to say that won't happen sometimes, and that for someone else asking the exact same question, but if there was like a different energy to it, that might be the answer for them. But just in the energy of the question, as I took it in, and recognizing like I've been going through some very similar things myself recently. Let me give you an example to make this really real, a very vulnerable example. Not that long ago, I was living at home and things were going really great, was doing lots of ancestral healing. It was a kind of situation where maybe my ego was putting up a fight about being there, but I could feel that the Divine Mother really wanted me at home for a certain period of time, because so much really good and deep ancestral healing was happening. And it was getting so deep and so raw that one day, unfortunately, in that moment, but looking back, it all made sense. But unfortunately, my mom and I had a really tough moment where things were kind of regrettable things were said. And immediately after that moment, I got in my car and I drove west. I just felt like I needed space. I kind of tried my best not to. I wanted to stay there at home and work through everything in that moment, but the wounds were up so much, I just felt like the best thing for everyone was if I just took a break. And so I went westward to the coast, a long ways away, and I went and sat in this cabin. And I sat there, and I sat there, and I had this huge depression. I had this stuckness come over me. The way I was witnessing it all, I noticed all the veils. I was like, I'm just seeing the world through a veil. I noticed, like, I was telling myself, this will pass, this will clear. All I have to do is sit here. I just have to sit here and keep meditating and keep praying. And eventually I will make peace with being here and I'll be able to stay. And I felt like this was what I needed to do for a while, to surrender. But every day as I was meditating, as I was praying, there was something I knew in the background, in the foreground, that I didn't want to know. And that something was, you need to go home and you need to face this ancestral wounding with your family. You need to go back into that container for healing, for resolution. And I didn't want to know that because that was the uncomfortable thing to do. I wanted just to stay in that cabin on the Pacific Ocean and for all of that healing just to happen with me sitting there on my meditation cushion. I didn't want to go back home into the uncomfortable feelings. So I resisted that voice. I kept saying, I'll just meditate this away. I'll pray this away. I'll make peace with this without taking that uncomfortable action. And what tends to happen when we do that is that feeling that was in the foreground, in the background, it tends to get louder and louder. And we tend to start suffering more and more. We start, the depression will start getting heavier, and like you're even talking about, that urgency for aligned action will grow. And that's exactly what happened to me. It grew to a point where I just couldn't take it another second, and I literally left the Airbnb 2 weeks early, packed my bag back up, and I hit the road and basically drove straight back home to Montana. And I'll say this, right when I made that decision, I felt my whole being fill with light, fill with grace. I felt the depression and the heaviness and the stuckness just flowing through my body, just moving. And I actually thought of you, because I think you had emailed me this. You emailed me this a while ago. But I thought of this email and what you were going through. And I thought, wow, how relatable is this for Sunid? Because if you're like me and you meditate a lot, sometimes we think we can just kind of, that's where we're going to work through everything, is on the meditation cushion. But I didn't find peace, actually, until I took the action that the divine was guiding me to take, until I truly allowed the Kundalini to live through me as me. And the Kundalini, once I made that decision, wow, did I have so much life force energy to drive home. It was like a 13-hour drive. I basically just made it in a straight shot. And that's because that's where the light was pulling me. That's where I was guided to go. And so my answer to you is, sometimes, we just got to move towards the thing that we know but don't want to know. That kind of action. It's not going to feel good for the ego, and that's the point. It's like my ego on the cabin in the Pacific Ocean, or on the Pacific Ocean, it got to remain more intact, right? But surrendering to the light, surrendering to Kundalini, and driving back home, and going back into the container of ancestral healing and apologizing for, laying down my life in a sense, laying down my egoic desires, and like humbling myself before the Divine Mother and saying, yes, I surrender to you. I will let you use me as a conduit to heal this line of ancestral trauma that's gone on too long, and all like the uncomfortable feelings that come with that on an egoic level. That was actually where I found peace. That's where I my heart, going home actually just like lit my heart up. It was so great to be home again. So great to find resolution for what had caused me to really kind of banish myself is a good word for it, to the West Coast. So notice like where are you doing that? Where are you separating yourself from life's attunement, from life's guidance, in order to not feel uncomfortable egoic feelings? There's probably like fear you're afraid to feel, maybe shame. I mean, it could be a lot of these feelings that you don't want to move towards, so we stay on the meditation cushion. But I can feel a maturity in you, Sunid, like this, a maturity that comes with lots of meditation and prayer. And so, I'm feeling like you've reached a certain point with it where the answer isn't sitting anymore. It's not actually making peace with what is, in a sense. Making peace with what is for you might be the what is of the guidance of moving towards something that's uncomfortable, right? Because that's actually what the meditation, it feels like, is showing you. It's like that's the what isness of your meditations. Is like, hey, time to take this inspired action. And whether that is finding something that's more authentic for you than the medical world you find yourself in, or finding a new way to relate to it, or having a difficult conversation, stepping into something that's new and unknown but excites your heart, or I should say opens your heart and excites your soul. It could be any of those things, but you know it. You already know it is the thing, right? Because I knew it when I was sitting on the Pacific coast. For 2 straight weeks, I knew it. And I just sat there suffering for 2 straight weeks saying, I'll meditate my way out of this. I can do this. It was like my ego versus the cosmos. And that's a lot of times what's happening when you're in the state you're in, Sunit. It's like your ego's trying to fight the cosmos. Your ego's trying to maybe hang on to the medical job, but the cosmos is pulling it away. And your ego's never going to win. You will be defeated, thank God, right? Because defeat means you get to move into something you love, that you're passionate about, that has resonance, that you actually enjoy doing. So just to make it easier on yourself, find where the ego is trying to defeat the cosmos, and then just surrender yourself. Like I was trying to defeat the cosmos all by myself. I mean, bless my ego's heart, right? When I was in Port Townsend, but it's just like I had to recognize again, oh yeah, my ego, it's always going to lose. And it just gets more and more painful until we finally let go. And then you will feel the power of the cosmos surge through you when you finally do relent, when you finally do give of yourself to your divinely ordained path. So I hope that this is helpful, just a reminder for you to listen to what's true in your heart and to trust that. And this is what allowing the Kundalini to live through you, as you, is really about. This is what, surrendering to the Kundalini, surrendering to life is all about. It's about going towards that thing we know, but almost would rather not know. And that's the ego that would rather not know it, because the ego knows as we move towards it that it's going to be impossible for it to stay intact. But you have this witnessing consciousness that can see that. And so you don't have to be subservient to that egoic agenda. You can see through that egoic agenda and still take the action, the aligned action that's being called on you to take right now. So I hope this helps you and anyone else going through this, as it's been a huge part of my awakening journey. Sending you all so much love from the jungle here in Tulum, If you resonate with this work and if you would like to support this work, you can do so through joining the Patreon page. Thank you so much, Gigi and Helena, for becoming our newest Patreon members. That means a lot to me. I hope you enjoy all the podcasts and videos. I think there's over like 40 something now on the Patreon page. And another way to support this work is to make a one-time donation, and I will leave a link for that in the description box as well. Other than that, thank you so much for being here. Sending you all so much love, and I will see you all in the next video. Namaste.